let's talk about the home buyer, the first time home buyer, people buying homes in this market. They're going to pay points in this market because the rates are higher. Pretty much every bank is doing deals with points. Now, are points still tax deductible?
Points are tax deductible to the purchaser. However, they're tax deductible to the extent of the loan. So you can't take all the point deductions in the year that you get the property. They have to be what we call amortized over the life of the loan. So if it's a 10-year loan, you can do it, you divide it by 10, or if it's a 30-year loan, you have to do the math. So you don't get the deduction. They are deductible, but the deduction is amortized over the life of the loan.
Is PMI tax deductible?
Yes. Here's the thing. Here's what I love about taxes in real estate. Pretty much any expense that is ordinary and necessary for you to obtain this property will be tax deductible to you as the homeowner or as the investor. So points, as you mentioned, PMI, mortgage interest, all these expenses are deductible to the owner or to the investor. That's what makes real estate so powerful. And we're just like on the tip of the iceberg when it comes to deductions. But if it's ordinary and necessary for you to buy your home or you to invest in that property, is tax deductible to the
So,
purchaser.
so for the home buyer, right? Because I know the deductions they change. You're doing standard or itemized deductions, right?
Mhm.
In what case would it be more advantageous for someone to itemize their deductions? Because I know the deduction, I think the standard is what, 12,000 or something like that
Yeah, 12,000,
for
twelve
single.
thousand 950 for single, and it's 2x that for married. Yep.
So in most cases, if they don't itemize, then they can't deduct the points, the PMI, and everything. If they take the standard, especially if they're married, it's almost 25,000 in a deduction. There'll probably be more. Just taking a standard deduction if you're married, if versus trying to do the points and the PMI and everything like that. Correct?
Absolutely. And like as the homeowner or purchaser, that shouldn't be your job. Your CPA should be like inputting into his system. His system should say, hey, if they itemize, it's going to give them this many deductions. If they select standard, it's going to give them this many deductions. And then your CPA should be picking whichever one is more, right? But again, you can't take any of these deductions as a homeowner if you select the standard deduction over the itemized deduction, right?
Very
But
important.
for yeah, exactly. But for investors, we're talking different.
So now let's talk about the owner occupied, because as I mentioned, I got the house hackonomics book, right? We got
Love
house
it.
hackonomics right here. So it's teaching people how to house hack their way to wealth by using low down payment loans and buying multifamilies, right? Now with
Hmm.
multifamily, owner occupied. So I'm gonna keep the conversation owner occupied. You'll be able to get more deductions if you own a multifamily property because now the IRS recognizes you as a business owner and you have to file a Schedule E, correct?
Yes. So my first real estate property was in Chicago about 4 years ago. I bought a three flat, lived in one unit, and rented out the other two units. Right. So 66.6% of my home was a business. So that means that 66.6% of all the expenses related to that three flat is a tax deductible business expense, right? So I love that you're teaching your students about house hacking because you can literally live for free and enjoy the tax deductions of owning a real estate property. So 66.6% of your mortgage interest, your HOA fees, your homeowners insurance, uh, your management company, your repairs, all these expenses you get to deduct to the portion that you rent out your home. So for me, that 66% taken by all my expenses, I was able to live for free and enjoy some amazing tax savings, bro. It's literally like hacking life.
Even now, earlier you was talking about depreciation
Mm.
as well. So now you also, on top of everything that you just mentioned, you get to depreciate this property for what's that, 27 years or something like that?
Yes, let's talk about depreciation because depreciation is the best deduction that there is according to the IRS, and I don't think it's going to change. So Depreciation is literally what we call a phantom deduction, meaning you spend no money. You incur no actual expenses, but you get tax write-offs. So the way you calculate your depreciation is you take the value of your property and divide it by 27 and a half. So if the property's value minus land was $500,000, 500 divided by 27 and a half, that's about $18,000 per year that you get to take out as a depreciation deduction, right? If you make that means if you make $18,000 in profit, your depreciation alone is going to wipe out all your income. So you're going to be earning money in real life, but you're probably going to be losing money on your tax return.
Hmm.
It's a
Hmm.
beautiful thing.
Look. Hold on, y'all. I hope y'all caught that gem right there. I really hope you caught the gem because early in this conversation, when we were talking about if you have a business and you're doing a distribution to yourself, and if you did that distribution, I think we said $380 something thousand, right?
Mm-hmm.
To yourself. Now it's coming. It's you have to pay taxes on that money. So if you don't own no real estate, especially if it's in your primary name, right? You don't have nothing that can offset those taxes. So if you're running a business and you're making money and you don't have real estate in your name, you're actually doing yourself a tremendous disservice because you need the real estate to offset those income taxes that you're making. This is the wonderful thing about real estate. Now, in most cases, we hope everybody's making 3, 4, 500,000 net, $1 million net after expenses. But think about if you're a small business owner and you making after all your expenses, let's just say 40,000 in net income, and you K1 that stuff, you do a distribution, you K1 it to yourself, and you got a 3 family or 4 family, and now you're able to depreciate 20,000, 25,000. Now you just cut your income, your taxable income in half. And that's not including the other 66% of what Carter just explained to us. The property management fees, your property taxes, the homeowner's insurance you're paying. All these different things are on your Schedule E that the IRS is now recognizes as your business. So that was a major gem, and I hope our students understand this.
Yeah, and like not to so here's the thing, even if you're real estate and I know you want to teach cash flowing real estate, but even if your real estate property didn't make you any money, it's saving you so much on taxes, it actually is making you money. Like legitimate. So like I think that real estate is it's not a if, it's a must, right? If you want to be wealthy and you want to not just make the bag, but you want to keep the bag, you're going to need those real estate properties to offset your income in other places. Not to mention, and I don't even know if you have time to go into this, but like as your property goes up in value, you get to take a loan against it, which loans aren't taxable. So now you're able to use that loan to buy another property, and you can keep doing this thing and enjoying depreciation on money that you didn't even use for the down payment.
Exactly. Now, all things Nissy, what we're talking about is these are owner occupied investment properties basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you getting the owner occupied rental properties. So this goes for whether it's an owner occupied rental property as depreciation, or even if it's a true investment property that's in your personal name. Let's just say you bought a 3 family, 4 family, and you didn't put in an LLC, you put it in your personal name. It's going to be on your Schedule E. So the same deductions that we're talking about or speaking about for the primary residence is the same if it's a true investment property. But I want to ask you this, Carter, because I think this is very important. Single family versus multifamily as owner occupied. It clearly, in my opinion, the multifamily wins hands down because of the tax benefits, correct?
Absolutely, like absolutely. I don't, and I don't see a world where it would make sense the other way. I think if you have an opportunity to especially use like a FHA loan to get a multifamily property, that way you can live for free, take advantage of tax deductions at the same time. I think that's the best thing you can do for yourself and your family.
Ladies and gentlemen, House Economics. Go to mgbookstore.com.
Hey, look, go get it now. Like, trust
go,
me.
go
If you
get
don't
it
get it,
right
you're playing
now.
yourself.
The link is pinned in the live chat. And this is why, when you hear people saying single family homes is not an investment, and I just want to be clear, I am a fan of people buying single family homes because you need a place to live. And not everybody or every market is going to have multifamilies like the Northeast or the Midwest, like Chicago and things like that nature. And I'm a fan of black people owning real estate. So if you have to buy a single family property, go ahead and do so. Just buy smart. So I'm not advocating against single family versus multifamily. I want you to buy either which one that you can afford, right? But the math don't lie, right? On a single family side, you only really have 2 to 3 deductions. And those deductions you might not be able to realize because your standard deduction might be greater. So you're not really getting the tax benefit. So if you didn't own the single family house, you still would get the same standard deduction. So the single family, from a tax purpose, doesn't really help you. But that owner occupied multifamily, oh, hell yes. That baby helps you, whether it's negative cash flowing or positive cash flowing. It is helping you tenfold compared to the single family
Facts.
primary residence.
Facts. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, bro. I couldn't agree more. So again, if you can go multifamily, I did it myself, so I can speak from experience, and I'm sure you can too, man. So definitely y'all check out that book if you don't know how to do it, so you can start learning and start earning.
Now let's flip the conversation. Let's talk to the investors. Wait, matter of fact, before I go there, what about ADUs? Right? So ADUs, accessory dwelling units, are now becoming a big thing nationwide. How does that now play from a tax perspective? Because now it's a single family property, but you collect rental income. Now, the folks who are buying single families with the ADU, should they file a Schedule E to now include that rental income to now kind of hack? I'm not going to say hack when I'm saying the IRS in the same sentence. Hold on,
Yeah,
let me retract. Let me
yeah,
retract that. Right? Let me
yeah,
retract
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
You don't need that clip going viral,
we,
bro.
we don't need that going viral. So let me rephrase this, right? Someone buying a single family with an ADU, can they get the same benefits as a multi owner occupied multifamily? Because if they claim the rental income on a Schedule E, technically it's an investment property too, right?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I was living in California the past 3 years, and they didn't let AUDs wasn't a thing because you can do them in California. So I actually am not sure to answer that question. I can check really quickly, but in a perfect world, you should. But I honestly don't know that off the top of my head. That's a phenomenal question. Let me try to look it up and get the answer before we finish up.
All right, that's cool because that's something that just came to my mind. Like, wait a minute, if you got the ADU, like, and ADUs is really like brand new to the scene, for the
Yeah.
most part on a national perspective. So that would be definitely a good answer that we can probably get later on in this program. But let's switch it to now the investors. Now you're buying true investment properties. You're not using your personal name. You're buying them in LLCs. First of all, if you're flipping, let's
So,
talk to.
wait, the answer is yes. I just looked it up that quick. So you have to report the rental income for the ADUs, but you also can deduct the cost of maintenance and depreciate the cost of construction for the ADU. So that was a great point there as well, bro.
Oh, wait, hold on. So you can claim the rental income on your owner occupied single family with the ADU.
Mm-hmm.
If you paid $250,000 to construct your ADU, you can deduct that full 250.
You have to depreciate that over the useful life of that construction, right? So it depends if it was roofing, that's 10 years. If it's something else, it's 15. So you get to depreciate it not all in 1 year, but you get to depreciate it over the useful life of whatever construction you had done.
So you can depreciate that the construction over the life, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can now the maintenance of the ADU you can depreciate. The rental income you can deduct. The if you got a management company you can deduct. What if we created
Mm-hmm.
our own management company?
Yeah. So any expense that you incur in the year any expense that you incur gets deducted the year of any constructional improvements you have to amortize because the IRS says, hey, you're improving this property, so the value's going to go up. So we're not going to let you deduct it the same year. So you have to amortize it. But to your point, you recognize the income, you write off all the expenses, and you have to depreciate any improvements, which is the construction. But that's a dude. I even think of that. That was good.
So for
That was
all my
good.
single family primary residence people out here, if your state or county allows
Allows
you
it.
to put an ADU, whether it's a basement, a garage, whatever it is, it's probably in your best interest to have an ADU on your property from a tax play perspective.
Absolutely.